Oh, you thought they stopped talking about you? You thought because things got quiet, because the drama died down, because nobody's been in your face lately, that meant they moved on. That's adorable. That's genuinely precious. Because while you were out here minding your business, living your life, healing in silence, they were gathering. Again. Another meeting. Another closed-door session dedicated entirely to the subject of you. Your name passed between mouths that have no business speaking it. Your moves analyzed by people who couldn't make moves half as powerful. Your silence dissected by folks who are terrified of what it means. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the plot thickens into something they never anticipated. This time, somebody recorded it. Somebody in that room, somebody who's been watching them watch you, decided enough was enough. They hit record. They captured every word, every theory, every paranoid whisper about what you're planning, what you're becoming, what you represent. And now that recording exists, floating somewhere in the digital ether, proof that you've been living rent-free in their heads this entire time. Let me paint you this picture because you deserve to see it clearly. Imagine a room. Could be a living room. Could be a group chat that spilled into a video call. Could be a back table at some restaurant where they thought nobody was paying attention. Doesn't matter. What matters is who was there. The usual suspects. The ones who smiled in your face while sharpening their knives behind their backs. The ones who pretended to be neutral, but always seemed to have opinions about your business. The ones who swore they didn't care about you anymore, but somehow can't stop bringing up your name every chance they get. They sat down, they leaned in, and they started talking about you like you were a problem that needed solving, like you were a threat that needed managing. Like your very existence was an agenda item that required strategic discussion. And somebody with more conscience than the rest of them, somebody who maybe started seeing through the circus, they recorded the whole thing. You want to know what was said? You want to know what they're so worried about? Let me break it down for you, because the themes are predictable as clockwork. They always are with people like this. First, they talked about your silence. Oh, your silence is eating them alive. They cannot figure out why you stopped engaging, why you stopped explaining yourself, why you stopped defending your name when they drag it through whatever mud they can find. They expected you to come back fighting. They expected you to send paragraphs, to make phone calls, to show up demanding explanations. But you didn't. You just went quiet. And that quiet, that beautiful, strategic, powerful quiet, it's driving them absolutely insane. In the recording, you can hear it. The frustration in their voices, the confusion. Someone actually said, and I need you to hear this, I don't understand why they're not reacting. It's like they don't even care. And someone else responded, that's what worries me. Good. Let them worry. Let them lose sleep trying to decode your peace. Let them spin theories about what you're planning when the truth is you're not planning anything against them. You're just done. You're just evolved. You're just operating on a frequency they can't tune into because their radios are broken from too much static, too much drama, too much need for chaos to feel alive. Second thing they discussed, your transformation. They've been watching you change. Don't think they haven't noticed. Every post you make, every move you don't make, every time you show up looking better, feeling better, doing better, they clock it, and it bothers them. Because in their narrative, you were supposed to fall apart after whatever they did to you. You were supposed to crumble. You were supposed to come crawling back, desperate, broken, proving that their rejection, their betrayal, their abandonment actually meant something. But instead, you started glowing. Instead, you started building. Instead, you started carrying yourself with a quiet confidence that makes them deeply uncomfortable. In the recording, someone said, "Have you seen them lately? It's like they're a different person." And they didn't say it with admiration. They said it with fear. Because your growth is evidence that they were never as essential to your story as they thought they were. Third topic of discussion, and this is the one that should make you smile. They talked about your future, your potential, where you're headed, and they're scared. Not because they think you're going to do something to them. No, that would require you to care enough to seek revenge. They're scared because they can feel it in their bones that you're going to succeed, that you're going to rise, that one day, probably sooner than they want to admit, you're going to be somewhere they can't reach. And they'll have to live with the knowledge that they had access to you, had proximity to you, had the chance to be part of your story, and they blew it. They chose to betray instead of support. They chose to compete instead of collaborate. They chose their own insecurity over your friendship. And now they see the trajectory. Now they see what you're becoming, and it haunts them. Someone in that recording said something that might break your heart, or make you laugh, depending on how healed you are. They said, "I just don't want them to forget what we did for them." Can you believe that? After everything, after the backstabbing, after the lies, after the abandonment, they're worried about getting credit. They're worried about being remembered favorably. They're worried that when you make it, when you finally arrive at the destination all your pain has been preparing you for, you won't look back at them with gratitude. You'll look back at them with nothing. And that nothing, that void where their importance used to live, that's the thing they can't handle. Let me tell you about the person who recorded this meeting because they matter. They've been in that circle, pretending to agree, pretending to participate in the group, hatred, the collective obsession with your downfall. But something shifted in them. Maybe they watched you handle everything with grace. They couldn't fake. Maybe they saw the contrast between how you carry yourself and how the others carry their bitterness. Maybe they just got tired of being part of something that felt increasingly pathetic. Whatever the reason, they started seeing the truth. They started recognizing that these meetings, these discussions, this obsessive focus on someone who isn't even thinking about any of them, it's not about you at all. It's about them. It's about their inability to move forward. It's about the way your existence highlights their stagnation. It's about how your peace exposes their chaos. So they hit record. Not to expose anyone publicly, not to start more drama, but because they needed proof. Proof for themselves that they weren't crazy for seeing what they were seeing. Proof that the dysfunction was real. And maybe, just maybe, proof for you. Proof that your intuition was right all along. You weren't being paranoid. You weren't being dramatic. They really were talking about you. They really were obsessing. They really were investing time and energy into discussing someone who stopped thinking about them a long time ago. You want to know the funniest part of this whole situation? In that recording, not once did anyone suggest just moving on. Not once did someone raise their hand and say, "Hey, maybe we should focus on our own lives instead of dissecting someone who clearly doesn't want anything to do with us." That option never even entered the conversation. Because they can't. They're addicted to you. Your silence has become their fixation. Your peace has become their torment. Your growth has become their reminder of everything they're not doing, not becoming, not achieving. And here's what they'll never understand. You didn't do any of this to them. You didn't plot revenge. You didn't scheme to make them feel small. You just left. You just removed yourself from the equation. You just decided that your energy was too valuable to waste on people who couldn't appreciate it. And that simple decision, that quiet exit, it broke something in them. It created a void they don't know how to fill. They're used to people fighting for them, chasing them, begging for explanations. But you didn't do that. You just said nothing. You just walked away. And in that nothing, in that walking away, you said everything. The recording captured something else. Something that should tell you exactly where you stand in their minds. They talked about your old posts. They scrolled through your history. They analyzed your words like scholars studying ancient texts, looking for hidden meanings, trying to decode whether certain things were about them. They're doing forensic analysis on your social media, on your life, on your existence. And you're just out here posting because you felt like it, living because you have things to do, breathing because you're alive. The disconnect is almost comedic. You're thinking about your goals, your growth, your next chapter. They're thinking about you, period. That's all they have, you. In that meeting, someone brought up the possibility of reaching out to you, testing the waters, seeing if maybe bridges could be rebuilt. And you know what happened? Someone else shot it down immediately. Not because they thought you wouldn't respond, but because they were afraid you would. They were afraid of what you might say. They were afraid that you might tell them exactly what you think of them now, exactly what you see when you look at them, exactly how irrelevant they've become in your world. They'd rather keep you as a distant obsession than risk the reality of your indifference. Your apathy is scarier to them than your anger ever was. Let this sink in. They're having meetings about someone who doesn't attend. They're strategizing about someone who isn't playing. They're worrying about someone who doesn't worry about them. You've become the main character in their narrative without even trying, without even wanting to. You're dominating mental real estate you never asked to occupy. And every day you don't think about them is another day you win a game you didn't know you were playing. The recording ends with something that should bring you peace. After all the analysis, all the theories, all the obsessive dissection of your life, someone finally said the truth out loud. They said, "I just don't get how they're doing so well without us." And nobody had an answer. Because there is no answer that doesn't require them to admit something they're not ready to face. That they were never as important as they thought. That you were always the strong one. That your attachment to them was a choice, not a necessity. And when you chose differently, when you redirected that energy back into yourself, you discovered something they'll never know. You discovered that you were whole all along. You were complete all along. You were enough all along. You just forgot for a while because they worked so hard to make you believe otherwise. So what do you do with this information? What do you do knowing that somewhere out there, a recording exists of people who wronged you, sitting around discussing you like you're the weather? Nothing. You do absolutely nothing different. You keep walking. You keep building. You keep healing. You keep becoming the version of yourself that makes their meetings feel even more pointless. You keep being so focused on your own path that their obsession becomes the most one-sided relationship they've ever been in. Because here's the ultimate truth. People who are happy don't sit around having meetings about people who left their lives. People who are fulfilled don't analyze every move of someone who went silent. People who are at peace don't need recordings of their own dysfunction to validate their existence. But people who are empty, people who built their identity on being important to others, people who don't know who they are without someone to compare themselves to, compete with, feel superior to, those people have meetings. Those people record discussions. Those people cannot move forward because their feet are cemented in the moment you walked away. And that recording, that evidence of their obsession, it's not really about you at all. It's about them. It's always been about them. Their insecurity, their inability to self-reflect, their desperate need to make you the villain so they don't have to examine their own choices. You just happen to be the screen they're projecting their issues onto. You just happen to be the name they invoke when they can't face their own emptiness. So let them meet. Let them record. Let them analyze and theorize and worry about what you're doing, where you're going, who you're becoming. While they're doing all that, you'll be actually living, actually growing, actually building something worth being jealous of. And one day, when the recording surfaces, when someone thinks it's important enough to show you, you'll listen. You'll hear their pettiness, their fear, their obsession, and you'll smile. Not because you won, but because you realized you were never competing. You were just leaving, and they still haven't figured out how to watch you go.
You ever wonder why people disappear from your life? Why one day they're standing beside you saying they'll never leave, and the next day they're gone? No warning, no goodbye, just silence. It eats at you, doesn't it? You lie awake asking yourself what you did wrong, why everyone you love seems to walk away eventually. But here's the truth you keep avoiding. God took them out of your life for a reason. You think it was a mistake. You think you scared them off, or maybe you weren't enough. But no, kid, it was never about that. It was never about you not being enough. It was about God seeing what you couldn't. He saw behind the smiles, behind the nice words, behind the fake loyalty. He saw their intentions, and he saw how they would have destroyed you if he let them stay. You call it heartbreak. God calls it protection. You think he's punishing you. He's actually saving you. That pain you're feeling right now, it's the sound of chains breaking. It's heaven's way of saying you deserve better. You thought those people were your ride or dies. You swore they had your back. You poured your soul into them, carried their pain like it was your own, and when you finally needed them, they vanished. You thought they'd fight for you, but all they did was drain you. And now you're here, sitting in the ruins of something you thought would last forever. But what you don't realize is God burned that bridge because you were never meant to cross it again. You think you lost something valuable, but really, you were being rescued. They were taking from you, slowly bleeding your light dry, and you didn't even see it because your heart was too pure, too loyal. You were giving and giving, thinking that one day they'd finally see your worth. But they never did. They never would. Because some people can't handle real love. They can't handle loyalty. They don't know how to cherish someone genuine because they're too busy chasing things that sparkle but don't shine. So God stepped in. He said, enough. He looked at you, broken, tired, clinging to people who kept cutting you, and he tore them away, not to hurt you, but to heal you, because he knew you wouldn't do it yourself. He knew you'd keep trying to fix people who were never meant to be fixed. He knew you'd keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. So he took them out of your life for your survival. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it feels like betrayal. But trust me, it's divine surgery. God had to remove the infection before it spread any further. You think the loneliness means he abandoned you? No. The loneliness is just the quiet after the storm. It's the peace that follows the chaos. You just don't recognize it yet because you've been living in noise for so long. You've mistaken toxicity for comfort. But this silence, it's holy. It's sacred. It's where you finally hear his voice saying, I took them away so you could finally find yourself. You were losing yourself trying to keep them. You were twisting, shrinking, dimming your own light just to make them comfortable. That's not love. That's bondage. And God couldn't stand to see his child live like that anymore. So he cut the cords. He ended the cycle. And now you're free, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. You think you need them to be whole, but you don't. You never did. They were a lesson, not a lifetime, a chapter, not the whole story. And God's not done writing yet. I know you want answers. You want closure. But the truth is, sometimes closure is just God saying, trust me. You don't need to know why they left. You just need to know that it was necessary. Because if they stayed any longer, they would have held you back from everything he's preparing for you. You were praying for peace, right? You were asking for clarity, for growth, for purpose. Well, this is it. This is how God answers prayers, not always with additions, but with subtractions. He doesn't just bless you by giving. Sometimes he blesses you by taking away. You wanted loyalty. He removed the fakes. You wanted love. He removed the users. You wanted peace. He removed the chaos. You wanted growth. He removed the people keeping you small. So don't call it loss, call it alignment. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. The problem is, we fight him. We beg for the same people he's trying to protect us from. We cry for the same doors he's closing in mercy. And all the while, he's whispering, child, if only you knew what I'm saving you from. You think you're missing out. You're not. You're making room. Room for the right people. Room for real love. Room for the version of you that's been buried under all that pain. Because the truth is, you've been living small, trying to fit into lives that couldn't hold your purpose. You kept dimming your light to keep others comfortable. And God finally said, no more. Want to know why it hurts so bad? Because endings always hurt, even when they're right, because part of you still believes they'll come back. But if God removed them, he did it permanently, not to punish, but to protect the peace he's building inside you. They don't belong in your next chapter. They were only meant to teach you how to value yourself. And maybe that's the real reason you're in pain, because deep down, you knew they weren't right for you, but you kept holding on anyway. You thought you could change them. You thought your love would be enough, but God said, no, that's not your job. Your job was to learn, to grow, to recognize your worth, to understand that love doesn't mean losing yourself, that forgiveness doesn't mean access, that letting go doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. And that's what you're gaining right now, wisdom. The kind that only comes from heartbreak, the kind that turns pain into power. One day, you're going to thank God for every person who left. You're going to look back and realize they weren't your loss. They were your lesson. You'll see how their absence made room for something greater, something divine, because what's coming next requires space, and God had to clear it for you. But before he can fill your life with blessings, he's got to make sure your hands are empty. So, yeah, he took them away, and yeah, it hurts like hell. But that pain you're feeling right now, that's transformation. That's the sound of old versions of you dying, so something stronger can be born. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. And this time, the foundation will be stronger, built on faith, not fear, built on truth, not illusion. So stop asking why they left. Start asking what God's trying to show you through it. Because the lesson isn't about them. It's about you. About how much you're worth. About how far you've come. About how strong you are when everything falls apart. You think you're alone, but you're not. You've got God. You've got yourself. And that's enough. That's always been enough. He took them out of your life for a reason, so you could finally stand on your own 2 feet without the weight of people who never truly had your back. He took them because he's preparing you for better love, better peace, better purpose. And one day, you'll look back and smile, not because you forgot the pain, but because you survived it, because you finally understand that their exit was the beginning of your freedom. So stop begging for what God buried. Stop crying for doors he locked shut. Start walking into the new season he opened for you. You've outgrown what you lost. You've leveled up. You're not who you used to be. You're wiser now, tougher now, freer now. God took them out of your life for a reason, and maybe that reason was to remind you that the only one you ever truly needed was him. So breathe, let it go, and trust the plan, because what's coming next will make you forget why you ever cried over what left. You think it's over, don't you? You think because they're gone, your story's done. You walk around like a ghost, half alive, half buried in memories. Every song reminds you of them. Every quiet moment echoes with their voice. You call it heartbreak, but what it really is detox. God is flushing the poison out of your soul, and it hurts because you got used to the taste. You called it love, but it was dependency. You called it loyalty, but it was chains. You called it forever, but it was a test. You don't heal by pretending it didn't happen. You heal by understanding why it had to, and that's where you are now. The breaking point, the place where God rebuilds what you kept trying to fix on your own. He took them away because you were starting to forget who you are. You stopped hearing his voice and started chasing theirs. You stopped praying and started begging people to stay. You stopped trusting God's timing and started forcing things that were never meant to last. He had to step in because you were trading peace for company, purpose for comfort, and that's not what you were made for. See, when God removes people, he's not subtracting from your life. He's refining it. He's cutting away everything that blocks his plan for you. It's like gold in fire. You can't shine until the impurities are burned off. And you were surrounded by impurities dressed as love. So the fire came, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. You're sitting here asking, why does it have to hurt so much if it's from God? Because pain is proof of transformation. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to what you were meant to outgrow. God had to break your heart, to break your attachment. He had to isolate you, so you'd finally see who was really there for you, and who only showed up when it was convenient. They didn't walk away because you were unworthy. They walked away because they couldn't handle your growth. Your elevation exposed their intentions, and instead of clapping for your progress, they got uncomfortable with your light. So God dimmed their access, not because you hated them, but because he loved you. Funny, isn't it? How people can smile right in your face while sharpening the knife behind their back. How they can laugh with you, break bread with you, call you family, and still play you like it's some twisted game. You ever sit there replaying every conversation, every "I got you," every "trust me," and realize it was all part of the performance? They played you once, never again. See, that's the thing about manipulation. It doesn't come dressed like evil. Nah, it comes wearing charm, a familiar voice, a warm hand. It walks in like a friend and leaves like a thief. They studied you, didn't they? Learned your habits, your hopes, your fears, found the cracks in your armor and smiled while they pushed their fingers in. They called it connection. You called it love, but it was strategy, a game, and you were the prize. You know what's worse than being lied to? Believing it. Not because you're stupid, but because you're genuine, because you assume people mean what they say, because you've still got that rare disease, honesty, but not anymore. That illness got cured the hard way. They played you once. You didn't see it coming. You wanted to. Your gut whispered, but your heart said, give them a chance. You always give chances, don't you? You see potential where there's poison. You confuse consistency with care. You thought loyalty meant something. You thought showing up would make them stay. You thought loving right would make them play fair. But that's the problem with people who play games. They don't want love. They want control. And when you stopped being easy to control, you became the villain in their story. You ever notice how they twist it? How suddenly you're cold, you changed, heartless, number. You just learned the rules. You stopped being the entertainment. You stopped giving them reactions to feed their ego. They wanted to win, not your heart, but your attention. And the moment you pulled that away, the game ended. Silence. That's your new move now. No texts, no explanations, no second rounds. You watch, you learn, you disappear, because the most dangerous player is the one who stops playing. You see, the first time they played you, you were innocent. You believed that people played games because they were hurt. You wanted to fix them. You thought if you loved them enough, they'd stop lying. If you showed them loyalty, they'd stop testing you. But that's not how it works. Some people don't play because they're hurt. They play because it makes them feel powerful, because your kindness reminds them of everything they're not. You ever been in a room with someone pretending to care? You can feel it, can't you? That shift in their energy, that invisible distance. Their words still sound sweet, but their eyes, cold. You start questioning yourself, thinking you're paranoid. You're not. You just finally see it. That's the part they don't tell you about healing. It makes you see the game clearly. Every move, every manipulation, every fake apology dressed as peace. And you don't get angry anymore. You get quiet because you realize the best revenge isn't exposing them. It's letting them lose access. They played you once. You were the open book. You told them everything. Your past, your pain, your dreams. You gave them the blueprint to your heart, and they used it to build your downfall. But the sequel, it's different. This time, you keep your peace private. You keep your plans silent. You keep your heart guarded like a fortress. Because once you learn how easily love can be weaponized, you start watching hands more than lips. You don't hate them. Hate takes energy. You've got better things to build now. You're too busy turning lessons into legacy, too busy becoming the kind of person they could never play again. That's what scares them. Not your anger, not your words, your indifference. They'll test it, They always do. They'll circle back with, hey, stranger, with, I miss how we used to be. They'll talk about closure, about peace. But peace isn't found in old chaos. And closure? Closure's just their way of reopening the door. Don't answer. They don't want forgiveness. They want access. You ever realize that the same people who broke your trust are the ones who can't stand to see you calm? Because your silence is proof that their game failed. You're not bitter. You're better. You're not broken. You're built. And that terrifies them. They can't manipulate what no longer needs validation. You used to explain yourself, didn't you? You used to overthink every text, every tone, every misunderstanding. Now, you just let people misunderstand because peace costs silence and silence costs connection. And that's a price you're willing to pay. They played you once. You don't warn people now. You watch. You don't argue. You observe. You don't chase. You choose. Because when you've been used as a pawn once, you learn how to move like a king. Let me tell you something cold, something true. The most dangerous version of you isn't the loud one. It's the one that smiles quietly after being betrayed. It's the one that no longer seeks revenge, because revenge would mean they still matter. You're beyond that now. You don't want to hurt them. You want to outgrow them. The old you wanted closure. The new you just wants distance. People talk about healing like it's soft, like it's candles and therapy quotes. Nah, healing is raw. It's ugly. It's crying one night and building an empire the next. It's deleting the message you'll never send. It's learning that maybe they'll change is just the first line of every tragedy. It's realizing you can't teach loyalty to those who profit from your pain. You're not paranoid now. You're prepared. You don't see everyone as bad, just not worth proving yourself to. You've stopped auditioning for roles in other people's stories. You're writing your own script, and when they hear about you, and they will, they'll call it luck. They'll call it ego. They'll never admit it was karma, but deep down, they'll know. They'll remember the moment they played you. They'll remember the look in your eyes when you realized it. And they'll know that was the last time, because now you walk different. You move in silence, build in shadows, love with boundaries. You don't beg to be seen. You disappear and let your growth do the talking. You don't defend your name. You let results speak louder. You don't explain your absence. You let the echo of your peace say it all. They played you once. You thought losing them was pain, but losing them was peace. You thought walking away was weakness, but walking away was rebirth. They'll never understand how the same silence they used to punish you became your armor. How the same heart they took for granted became untouchable. You see, players don't stop playing. They just run out of opponents, and you're no longer in the game. So let them talk, let them watch, let them wonder how the person they once toyed with became the one they can't reach. Let them feel the weight of their loss every time they scroll through the ghost of your presence. You don't owe them hate. You don't owe them words. You don't owe them closure. You owe yourself peace. And peace, real peace, is walking past the past without a flinch. It's smiling at memories that used to hurt. It's knowing they'll never get another chance to play you again. Because this time you see it all clearly, the masks, the manipulation, the motives, and you just nod, quiet, unbothered. They played you once, but never again. You know what's funny? After you stop playing their game, they start acting like you changed. Like you're the problem now. They call you different, cold, distant. But that's not distance, sweetheart. That's peace. That's what peace looks like to people who were addicted to your chaos. See, the thing about walking away from manipulators is they don't miss you. They miss control. They miss having someone who believed their lies, who explained themselves after every guilt trip. They miss the version of you that didn't see through the act. But you see everything now. You learned their language. You know the smirk that hides guilt, the text that sounds caring but smells like manipulation. You know the tone they use when they're trying to pull you back into the game. They played you once, and you turned that pain into fluency. Because once you understand the game, you stop being a piece. You start playing chess, not checkers. You move quiet, strategic, detached. You don't react to disrespect anymore. You price it. Every insult, every manipulation, it costs them access. You don't yell, you don't chase, you don't explain. You remove, you subtract, you erase without noise. That's how real power operates, in silence. They don't understand that, though. They're used to noise, drama, chaos, attention. They feed on reactions. When you stop giving that, they starve. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than silence, because silence says, I see you, and I don't care anymore. You ever notice how peace feels uncomfortable at first? You sit alone, no calls, no messages, no what's wrong texts, and your brain starts panicking. It's addicted to the drama, addicted to proving your worth to people who already made up their minds. But after a while, the quiet starts feeling like freedom. You stop waiting for their apology. You stop checking who's watching your stories. You stop caring who left. You realize the world doesn't end when fake people disappear. It begins. Ah, look at you, still fighting ghosts inside your own head, aren't you? You think you're strong because you've survived all this pain. But tell me, have you controlled it? Or has it been controlling you this whole time? You wear your anger like armor, your sadness like a badge. You think feeling deeply makes you powerful, that it makes you real. But deep down, you know the truth. It's not power, it's prison. And the chains, they're your emotions. They whisper to you in the dark, rage, fear, despair, telling you how to act, what to say, when to break, and you obey them. You obey them every single time. You shout when they tell you to. You cry when they demand it. You destroy things when they whisper, do it. And then you sit there wondering why your life feels like chaos. But you already know why. You've handed the steering wheel to your emotions, and they've been driving you straight into the fire. Funny, isn't it? How something that lives inside you can ruin everything outside you. But here's the thing, that chaos, that storm inside you, it's not your enemy. It's your weapon. You've just never learned how to wield it. Listen carefully, kid. Emotions are wild animals. They bite, they scratch, they tear. But if you learn to tame them, if you learn to make them obey you, you become something else, something dangerous, something unstoppable. You think the world cares about your tears, your rage, your heartbreak. No, it doesn't. The world respects one thing and one thing only: control. You want to know why you keep losing? Because you keep reacting. You let every insult, every setback, every disappointment pull your strings like a puppet. Someone says something, you explode. Someone ignores you, you crumble. A plan fails, you spiral. Pathetic. You call that strength. That's weakness dressed as passion. But here's the good news. Weakness can be reforged. It can be disciplined. Stop thinking your emotions make you human. No, what makes you human is your ability to master them. Anger is fire. It burns everything unless you learn to contain it. Fear is a weapon. It protects you unless you let it paralyze you. Sadness is weight. It grounds you unless you let it drown you. See, emotions are never the problem. Your lack of control is. Every time you lose yourself to rage, every time you fall apart because of pain, you give away your power. And power, once given, doesn't come back easily. You want control? Then learn to be still when your emotions scream at you. Learn to stand tall when everything inside wants to collapse. Learn to smile while your world burns, because that's real power. Let me tell you something nobody wants to hear. You will never get rid of your emotions. You'll never escape pain or fear or sadness, but you can bend them. You can shape them. You can own them. The ones who win in this world aren't the ones who feel less. They're the ones who feel everything and still stay in control. You think warriors don't feel fear? You think leaders don't feel doubt? You think the strong don't cry when the doors are closed? They do. They just don't let those emotions decide their actions. That's the difference between the weak and the powerful. The weak let emotions make choices. The strong use emotions as fuel. Imagine this: someone betrays you. The old you, the emotional you, would rage, scream, break things, spiral into self-pity. But the new you go silent, cold. You take that betrayal and you forge it into focus. You don't waste time proving a point. You become the point. That's control. That's dominance. And the world won't know what to do with you once you reach that level. They'll provoke you, test you, try to break you, and you'll just look back, calm, collected, dangerous. Because once you can't be controlled by emotions, no one can control you at all. But don't get it twisted. This isn't easy. Control comes with pain. You're going to have to kill parts of yourself, the weak parts that crave validation, the parts that break at rejection, the parts that feed off sympathy. You'll have to silence them. They'll scream as they die, but when the noise fades, what's left is clarity. You'll see the world as it really is: cruel, cold, indifferent. And for the first time, that won't scare you. It'll liberate you, because once you stop needing the world to care, you become unstoppable. Everybody says, follow your heart. No, control your heart. Follow your mind. Your heart will lead you into fire. Your emotions will tell you to jump. Your discipline will tell you when. Listen to the second voice. That's the one that keeps you alive. When the anger comes, don't fight it, observe it. When sadness hits, don't drown, study it. When fear whispers, don't run, listen. Then decide what to do, not react. Decide. That's what separates animals from masters. Reaction is primal, control is divine. You'll lose people on this path. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become heartless. Let them talk. You don't need their validation. You need victory. And once they see what control has turned you into, they'll understand. Not because you explained it, but because they'll feel it. They'll feel the power in your calm, the danger in your silence, the authority in your eyes. Because the truth is, control doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you untouchable. And here's the real twist. When you finally control your emotions, you'll start to feel more, not less. The difference is, those feelings won't drown you anymore. You'll choose when to feel them. You'll choose how long they stay. You'll choose when to let them go. That's freedom. That's mastery. Yeah, look at the world around you. It's built on emotional slaves, people controlled by fear, by anger, by greed, by pain. You'll be different because you'll see emotions for what they really are, tools. You'll sharpen them, you'll wield them, you'll use them to carve your destiny while everyone else keeps bleeding from their own. But don't mistake control for suppression. Control doesn't mean silence, it means command. You don't hide your emotions, you command them. You tell them when to move, when to rest, when to strike. You'll learn to use anger for drive, sadness for reflection, fear for preparation. That's the art of mastery. And once you master that, once you can command chaos without letting it consume you, you'll be feared, respected, unstoppable. But here's the final truth, kid. This path, it's not for everyone. Most people would rather drown in their emotions than control them. Because control takes strength, and strength comes from pain. You'll have to face yourself, your real self, stripped of excuses, stripped of comfort. You'll have to rebuild from the ground up, using pain as your foundation. But when you do, you'll be unshakable, untouchable, unbreakable. You'll walk through storms calm as a whisper. You'll stand in chaos and smile and the world will look at you, confused, terrified, in awe, because they'll never understand how you can be so calm in the fire. But you'll know that the fire doesn't burn you anymore, because you became it. So here's your choice. Keep letting your emotions control you. Keep letting them pull your strings, break your focus, ruin your peace, or take control, own them, command them. Because at the end of the day, it's not about killing your emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about turning every ounce of pain, anger, and fear into fuel. And when you do that, when you truly master yourself, the world won't stand a chance. Control your emotions before they control you. Because once you do, once you truly do, you won't just survive this world. You'll own it. And that's when the fun really begins. So you've learned to hold it together, huh? You felt the fire, the rage, the sadness. And for the first time, you didn't flinch. You didn't break. You stood there, watching your emotions scream inside you like caged beasts. And for a moment, you thought you'd won. But control isn't a moment. It's a war, and the enemy lives inside your head. See, emotions don't die when you master them. They hide. They wait. They whisper in the dark when you're tired, when you're alone, when your guard slips. And if you're not careful, they'll crawl back into the driver's seat before you even realize it. You think you've escaped anger? Wait until someone betrays you. You think you've killed fear? Wait until the future goes dark. You think you've mastered pain? Wait until life rips something you love away. Then you'll see. Control isn't something you claim once. It's something you fight for every single day. Because the truth is, control isn't peace. It's pressure. Constant, deliberate pressure on the chaos inside you. You can't relax. You can't slip. Because the moment you do, those old emotions, the ones you thought you buried, they come crawling back. They'll whisper, "You've changed too much. You've become cold. You've lost your humanity." Don't listen. That's not your conscience talking. That's weakness begging for a second chance. You see, control isn't about killing your emotions. It's about starving the ones that keep you small. Fear wants to feed on your hesitation. Anger wants to feed on your pride. Sadness wants to feed on your self-pity. Starve them. Let them wither. Because the moment you feed them, they grow teeth again.